Good morning and Happy New Year. Today, on this very first edition of CT26, we're focusing on what's to come in the new year in politics, in business, and in tourism. We begin our program talking about politics and the notable races here in Connecticut, and there's no one better to talk to than Channel 3's chief political reporter, Susan Raff, and CT Insider's Dan Haar. Welcome. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Exciting times ahead. It is an exciting time, particularly if you're the chief political reporter, Susan. So when do we expect campaigning to really get underway? Well, obviously not before the end of the year, and then the legislative session starts in February. So I think about February, March. I think springtime, maybe sooner. The candidates have jockeyed into position now. They're raising money, but I think so. I think in the spring we should see some movement. Starting in dribs and drabs. John Larson in the 1st District came out with some strong endorsements, and he's come out swinging. I know we're going to talk about that. We are. So it's there already a little bit. But it'll pick up as we move into the new year here. Tell me, Dan, about what we should expect for governor. Do you expect that the candidates in the race will all make it to a primary? On the Republican side, we will, we will have a primary between Senator Fazio, Ryan Fazio, and former Mayor Aaron Stewart. That will be a primary. They both will qualify by the end of March. She will probably qualify this month, and he'll qualify by the end of the month for public financing, and there's no question that that's a tight race. On the Democratic side, that's a question whether that'll actually go to a primary, depending on what happens with the challenger. Right. I think as far as Governor Lamont goes, obviously he's going to run on his own. He doesn't need the money, but his Democratic challenger, Josh Elliott, will probably get enough support at the convention, but whether he actually gets to the primary, that remains to be seen. Probably not. You were shaking your head a little bit. You're not sure on that 15%. I think there are some observers who believe that he wants to make a point and he's going to bow out. He knows he probably can't win a primary. If he gets that 15%, as Susan said, that'll be a nice triumph. He'll give a good speech. He bows out. Everybody respects him. Great thinker. Good guy. He's only 40. He can run again. Right. I asked this to both Senator Fazio when he was on the show and Mayor Stewart when she was here. There's always this conundrum for Republican statewide candidates of if you want to win a Republican primary with all Republican voters, you better be on the right. But then you have to maybe be towards the middle and more moderate. Is that something candidates are dealing with, and how do you run that race? I think it's really tough these days for a lot of Connecticut Republicans, and I see it all the time. And the more things that happen in Washington, and even with Trump, and now, you know, Connecticut Republicans and Democrats are putting money aside to try to pay for some of these federal cuts, and there seems to be a bipartisan effort. But I wonder how far they'll go in this election to align themselves with Trump at a time when a lot of people on both sides are pretty upset. But isn't that hard, though, to get out of the primary? It's hard. It's a double helix. You have the moderate versus conservative, and I think both candidates are going to push conservative because they know they're going to, if they win, they have to win that primary, and they're going to push conservative because it's only going to be, you know, how many votes wins? 80,000. And as far as Trump goes, that's a little bit different. I think he's maybe trying to distance himself a bit, and she's going more Trump, which is ironic because the MAGA people don't hate. They believe, they're skeptical that she's truly one of them. And I think the strategy has been for a lot of Republicans up until now in the legislature has been, let's stick to the issues that are facing Connecticut. You know, let's not worry about what's happening in Washington. We have issues here. But what's happening in Washington is affecting Connecticut. Medicaid, SNAP, health care, all of that is affecting how people live. And homeless, I mean, they're putting money on the table to keep people from sleeping on the streets this year. What about on the Democratic side? What are the talking points in a Democratic campaign for governor? Trump. I think the Democrats may or may not vote, or rather campaign on it, but you know, Trump is the best weapon they have, and the Democrats in the House and Senate could go to near record low numbers. They're not going to get down as far as 37, the fighting 37 of Themis Claret is our friend, but they're going to get, you know, they're going to lose some seats, and so Trump they're also going to say, look, we've had 6 years of $14 billion in surpluses, folks. This is not a bad place to run. Right. I think Democrats are going to certainly encapsulate on that and talk about how they, you know, we're facing the record surplus. We have enough money. In fact, money to put aside to avert some of these federal cuts. I think that's going to be a big thing for Democrats. And I think they're going to focus on, you know, we're the party of the people. You know, we're concerned about immigration. We're concerned about ICE. We're concerned about food stamps, and we're concerned about homeless. I think they're really going to focus on that. Both sides are going to talk about affordability. The Republicans say the Democrats' policies lead to unaffordable energy, health care, et cetera, in Connecticut, property taxes. The Democrats are going to say the government can help you
make life more affordable, and that's the debate.
Dan, you just mentioned earlier about John Larson. He appeared maybe at the very beginning of this election cycle to maybe be the most vulnerable. Is he still? And do you think former Hartford Mayor Luke Bronin takes that all the way to a primary?
Now it's an uphill battle for Luke Bronin. His best shot was to shoot the king and kill the king early. When that didn't happen, that makes it a slog. And can he win the slog? Sure, but it's still Larson's race to win. If Jillian Gilchrist, the West Hartford state rep, remains in the race, which may or may not happen depending on money, that hurts him.
Yeah, I think the way that Luke Bronin also went about this was difficult. Right. You know, in Connecticut, if you're an incumbent Democrat, a long-term Democrat, and you decide to run, it's kind of hands-off, right? But he did have some health problems. So I think, and I had heard, I don't know if this is true, but Larson had a conversation with Jillian Gilchrist and said, you know, I want to stay in the race now, but maybe next time. But next time, you know, you might have 14 Democratic challengers.
He wants her. He wants her in the race now. Yeah. Some of Larson's money may quietly. No, I'm not saying that. That would be. I'm not suggesting.
How about other congressional?
I'm just not hopeful about Luke Bronin.
How about other congressional races? Any big ones that you think would be ripe for knocking off an incumbent?
I really don't. I think you're right. I think Larson at the beginning, he had some health issues, and I think that there was some, you know, thought that maybe he would step aside. He's not ready to do that. Jahana Hayes has always been the most vulnerable out of all the congressional districts because it's such a purple area. But she won by, I think, some 20,000 votes in the last election. So she feels in a way that, you know, leave me alone. Don't keep saying I won by a smidge.
We're looking ahead to 28. For 26, no chance.
All right.
No chance.
And you were saying to me earlier, Dan, that one of the things to watch is the makeup in the General Assembly and where they end up with the seats. You mentioned a little bit.
That's right. The Republicans have 11 in the Senate and, what is it, 48 in the House, 49, 48, I think. And those numbers could go down. As I said, they're not going to go to 37, but they could go near 40, 42, 41. And that's not good for the Democrats or the Republicans because too many mouths to feed. We've had this discussion, you know, the leaders and the reporters, like, how much is too much? I believe that that would be 27 Democratic senators is too many for the leadership to handle.
Right, because fiscal guardrails certainly were passed during much tighter margins when it was a split in the Senate, and some would argue that that's a healthier dynamic when you have a more equal balance.
Oh, it's bad for the state, but I'm saying there's no question that more balance is better for the state, a little bit more balance. But I'm saying it's even bad for the Democrats and their own agenda because you have so many people, it's just too many mouths to feed.
Well, it will certainly be an interesting year. We appreciate you being here on our first show of the new year, and we'll have you back as this moves forward and we get going with the campaigning. Susan Raff, Dan Haar, thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you.
Happy election year.